clock is at 0 and another Cougar football game is in the books.
Close to 5 minutes remaining in this first quarter. Scoreless for now. L.J. Martin right in. And that is the first time Texas Tech has allowed a point on an opening drive this season. Physicality has them with a touchdown lead for the moment. As Stone Harrington, who made a school record 5 field goals in the November 8th win against BYU, is on for this 23-yard attempt. And he puts it through. High snap. Vanderhaar's a fake, and it's incomplete. Special teams coordinator Kelly Papinga put in numerous fakes this week in practice, and they just tried to pull one off there on 4th down.
The last couple drives now, they're taking opportunities downfield.
Review. It has been ruled a completed catch for a touchdown.
They wanted 7s, not 3s. This from 40. Good elevation and rotation, and with that, a 13-7 lead for Texas Tech. 3rd down and 4. Bachmeier with time. Oh, what an interception by Roberts! Point blank, stabbed it. Ben Roberts. Just the 5th interception thrown by Bachmeier this season, and Ben Roberts comes up big. And now Dickey right in! Cameron Dickey! Try to make it 21-7. And Carter's going to do just that. Terrence Carter takes it in. This is 4th and 2 as Texas Tech looking to put this game away. On 4th down, they get it into space to Aiken. And Aiken inside the 10 and into the end zone for another touchdown.
Now it's time to break down all the action. You're listening to the Cougar Postgame Show on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It is the Cougar Postgame Show here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Alex Napoles. That's Christian Esparza.
The clock is at 0 and another Cougar football.
As we break down this win for Texas Tech, the loss for BYU in the Big 12 championship game. It got out of hand there, Christian, towards the end. BYU started off really well, and then in the second half, it became a turnover fest for the Cougars.
It was a 13-7 game at halftime, but really, when Bear Bachmeier started limping late in the first quarter, early in the second, after he took that hit, he actually had a nice run, but once he started limping there, you kind of had a feeling like, oh, that's going to be trouble. And the BYU offense went completely stagnant after that happened. I liked what they did the first drive. I thought they came out and that instilled a lot of confidence, and they got on the board first, going up 7-0.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was going to be a completely different game because of that drive. And I don't know, man. Shout out to Texas Tech. Credit to them. They are an incredible team. This defense is one of the best units in the entire country. Mitch Harper tweeted out, this is the best defense that BYU has played in the Kalani Sitake era. They gave BYU fits today, and Bear Bachmeier, obviously, with the 3 turnovers. That's tough. That's really tough. And I think the game was out of hand by that point already. But it was a tough game for BYU today.
It was a tough game indeed. And, you start off with the first plays in the first couple of drives in that first quarter, right? You hold them to a punt. That's great. You get the ball back. You go 14 plays for 90 yards, and you essentially hold possession for a majority of that first quarter. You're up 7-0, thanks to the touchdown from LG Martin. And it feels like things would be a little bit different for you this time around, right? It doesn't feel like, in that first game down in Lubbock where you make some early mistakes. You have the muff punt, you have the shanked punt. You give Texas Tech short yardage situations there down in Lubbock. You fall into a hole early, and this one BYU's up 7-0, and you heard it there on the montage. This is the first time that Texas Tech has given up any points on a first drive to any team this season. So you're feeling a little confident. You're feeling a little good. But then the tides quickly turn where, again, BYU gets 90 yards on that first drive, and then there's an inability to move the ball for the remainder of that first half.
I was so impressed with LJ Martin on that first drive. I was like, oh, if he plays the entire game the way he played that first drive, this would have gone down as like the LJ Martin game, right? And Texas Tech eventually figured him out, but then also once BYU goes down, right, they can't just keep feeding LJ. And I think at times they were still finding creative ways to keep LJ involved and still get the ball in his hands with the tunnel screens and things like that. But then there were a ton of other play calls that just completely baffled me at times. Even thinking of like that, the fake punt, horrible play design, and really an awful time to go for it, I thought. And Tech did end up missing the field goal, so it didn't turn into any points allowed for BYU. But things like that, like I said this morning in Keys of the Game, if BYU wanted to win this one, Aaron Roderick was going to have to call one of the best games that he's ever called, and I don't think he did today. Of course, it's not all on him. I think there were a lot of execution errors and simply just a mismatch in talent. I mean, that Texas Tech front four is amazing, and they did not have to blitz at all. They were able to get pressure with four all day, and it was funny that Bear Bachmeier's first interception looked almost exactly the same as the interception he threw to Rodriguez in the first game. It was like almost the exact same. So really good linebackers, really good front four, and BYU's offense just could not move the ball after that first drive.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit of a mix of one. Obviously, Bear Bachmeier comes out of that first drive with the taped up ankle, not 100% for the remainder of the game, but also in a similar fashion to what we saw how we saw Bear Bachmeier perform down in Lubbock. He showed a little bit again the signs of being a true freshman, right? The signs of I think just the offense as a whole, just having that inability to move the ball downfield. LJ too, even though he put up 76 yards on the ground, his longest rush was only 13 yards. He got the touchdown. I think that actually was the touchdown play, the 13-yard rush for the touchdown. But then after that, again, give credit to Texas Tech's defense. They showed that why they are one of the best in the entire country, and why they are the best at stifling the run.
I do wonder how much Bear Bachmeier's injury really changed the tide of this game, because we saw in that drive, and it was actually the play he got hurt, Bear used his legs, and there was one play, I think it was a third down, which was huge. And again, when Tech only rushed 4 players, they dropped everybody else back, and Bear Bachmeier was able to scramble and pick up a first down. And he did run the ball a couple more times later in the game, but you could tell that he was really hurting.
Yeah.
But on that first conversion there, when he picked it up, I was like, okay, this is something we didn't see from Bear in that first game. And this is something that's going to keep BYU in it if they're able to continue to do it. But after that injury, man, it looked like he basically had a walking boot with all the tape that he had on there. And it showed him running out at halftime, like trying to sprint out there and gain some confidence, putting pressure on that ankle. And even when he was like sprinting out onto the field into the huddle, he was hobbling really badly. So they were talking about how it was to his left foot, so it shouldn't have affected his passing ability and, the ability to put velocity on the football, but he was clearly hurt.
Yeah.
And it impacted his ability to play quarterback and really do anything. And then you see them try and get into the trick plays. Of course, you have the fumble when they tried the famous tornado play there. And that was a bummer, man. It just felt like once things got out of hand, they started to get worse and worse for BYU. And you look at their final drives, they went interception, punt, fumble, interception, turnover on downs, and fumble. And it's just going out sad for a team that really needed this win today as far as college football playoff. But that's I think the takeaway that I want to take from this game. It's not about the college football playoff. It's not. And I know how awesome that would be for BYU to make it and for BYU fans to be able to cheer on a playoff team. But making your conference championship game is a heck of an achievement, especially for Kalani Sitake and, this school being in the third year in this program. 11-2 record right now. You're going to have a bowl game, right? we'll see what happens there. But this is going to go down as one of the all-time memorable seasons for BYU, and I don't want it to get overshadowed by the fact that they didn't make the playoffs. I don't want that to be what people remember from this. I want people to remember, like, oh yeah, they played in the conference championship game, and hopefully they, have more success down the road in the near future as far as winning a championship game. But again, like, just because they don't make the playoff does not mean that this season is a failure.
Right. It's not all doom and gloom. I know that right now it's probably difficult for BYU fans, considering the fact that that was what was on the line for this game. You win and you're in. You win and you make it to the college football playoff, which I think is the ultimate goal nowadays when it comes to college football. But the reality is, you continue to put yourself in a position where you are a contender in this conference, and you put yourself in a national spotlight, which I think right now is something that BYU really needs, considering the fact that they have been a little bit slighted in the college football playoff rankings because they're not the Notre Dame brand, they're not the Miami brand, right? They're not the Alabama brand. But this is a step in the right direction for BYU, I think, no matter which way you look at it, because you're absolutely right, Christian. To go to this conference championship game and to be able to have an opportunity to compete for that, I think it's a massive, massive deal that should not be understated by BYU fans.
No, and you did all this with a true freshman at quarterback, let alone a kid who didn't even play spring ball with this team. He was in a completely different state during spring camp. So tremendous season for BYU. You saw a lot of great things. Of course, LJ Martin winning Offensive Player of the Year. Kalani Sitake winning Coach of the Year, numerous first, second, and third team all-conference players. So this BYU team achieved a lot. And yes, it stinks that you don't make the playoff. It stinks that you don't get to continue cheering for your team in that sense. But again, there is going to be a bowl game. We'll see. It's probably going to be the Alamo Bowl against USC. We'll see when that is announced. But as far as the result of what happened today, I mean, I would have been surprised if BYU came out and won this. I think when they went up and went up 7-0, it was like, no way, this might actually be real. But then they came back down to earth, is what I'll say, right? Like, once they started struggling and Texas Tech started going, I think there was a feeling of, okay, this is how the game is supposed to be going, right? It was pretty much the exact same as the first game, except the first game, BYU was never up. They never even got on the board until garbage time. So there was a sense of a better performance in that way. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's just a really, really good Texas Tech team in Lubbock.
Yeah. Want to take this time to remind you, of course, that we are live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Send in your comments, send us your reactions, get involved in the conversation. We'd love to hear your guys' takes and your guys' impressions on this BYU loss, this Texas Tech team winning the Big 12 championship. One of the things I saw online, Christian, and I don't know, I want to get your take on this. One of the things I saw online too was calling for the coaching staff to make a switch to QB after Bear Bachmeier seemed limited. People were calling for a change there to see if we can get McKay Hillstead in to try to get something going on offense. Was it the right decision, of course, to stick with your true freshman quarterback?
You have to. Not even in the sense of, hurting Bears' confidence, like it's the last game of the season. But the fact of the matter is, Bear Bachmeier beat McKay Hillstead.
Yeah.
And that is a true freshman beating whatever McKay Hillstead is now, a redshirt sophomore. He was the better player. And if, it's one thing if he's got like a severe sprain to his knee or something that really would affect him and his ability to throw the ball at all, or maybe like a shoulder injury. But where if it's an ankle, I mean, that's your starting quarterback and you got to try and fight through it. And they asked Kalani Sitake about it coming out of the half, and he basically said, you got to fight through the pain. Like, that's what you have to do. You're a football player. And I'm paraphrasing there. I don't remember exactly what he said, but yeah, everybody's banged up. LJ Martin's playing through a banged up shoulder. We know he's in pain still. Jack Kelly, Isaiah Glasker played through really painful injuries at times. I mean, Glasker left the game today and came back in, and I would not have any confidence at all in switching to the backup, especially that early in the game. Maybe if it if circumstances were different, but BYU was hanging around at that time when the injury first occurred. But I think it was the right choice. I think you got to stick with the guy who won the starting quarterback job.
I think the most disappointing thing, and I think the thing that I'm struggling with, kind of coming to terms to after this loss, is the fact that the BYU was in this game up until the mistakes really started coming in, right? The turnovers, the fumbles, it felt like after that first drive there was a couple of mistakes from BYU that they seemed to be able to kind of get over, right? There was a couple of errant snaps in that first half, but it really started coming over with the turnovers in that second half. And I think that is just a testament to how great we cannot undervalue how great that Texas Tech defense is. And they brought a new coordinator. This was one of the worst defenses in the Big 12 last year. I want to remind everybody that last year Texas Tech defense was not good. They went in, they brought in a new coordinator. They went through the transfer portal, and they brought in a bunch of top guys. The best money can buy, and this is the best defense money can buy. And Texas Tech, again, just absolutely dominant on defense tonight. BYU's inability to move the ball was detrimental.
Considering everything that happened in the first half, everything that had went wrong, and I tweeted this out there, like being down 13-7 at half was
it felt like
a really good position for
and it felt like you were almost a little bit lucky to head into the halftime break down what you were.
Exactly. And then they started the second half with the ball, and it ends in a missed field goal by Will Farron, which hurt, but then you get another stop. The defense gets another stop. They force Texas Tech to turn it over on downs, and then that second drive of the second half is when Bear Bachmeier threw the first interception. So really up until then, it felt like BYU could come back in this one and hang around. There are a few things I think that really hurt the Cougars. Obviously, for the most part, their defense played a pretty good game. I was disappointed that they were not able to capitalize on any of Baron Morton's errant throws. Satuala dropped an easy pick six early in the game. Evan Johnson dropped an interception. And there were a few other throws where Morton just completely misfired, and there were no defenders there. And it felt like if BYU was able to secure one of those interceptions and bring in a takeaway, that would completely change the game, and we didn't see that. And then another one was the tackling was just horrible today by BYU. Several broken tackles in the backfield that turned into big gains, broken plays. There was that one towards the end of the first half where they had the running back wrapped up in the backfield, and then he gains 20 yards, and then he fumbles it an additional 10 yards. And it's just crazy things that could have been prevented if you just wrap up. And then there was the 2-point conversion, or maybe it was a touchdown, but just missed tackles, man. And that's not something that we had seen a ton of from BYU today. And of course, you can't ask the defense to play a perfect game when, the offense is only scoring 7 points. It's going to make it hard on that other side of the ball to continue to show up. But all in all, I think it was a fine game from the defense, but they definitely missed out on some big opportunities there.
I do want to give a shout out to Satuala. He came to play, man. True sophomore coming in, making some big plays, especially early in that first quarter. I think it was that first drive with Texas Tech where he missed out, just barely misses out on an interception. And then, of course, he continues to have such a phenomenal game throughout the course of the game. And I think similarly to the game that we saw down in Lubbock, where BYU's defense was very much bend but don't break. There was multiple times where Texas Tech's offense was able to make it into the red zone, but BYU's defense clamped down and came up with big plays at the right times. Obviously, that changes a little bit late with at that point what feels like an out-of-hand game, but the defense did enough to keep their offense and keep BYU in this game. And I think that's probably where it's going to sting the most for this coaching staff. Once we get some sound, we hear from Kalani Sitake, that's probably going to be where it's that in special teams. But their defense did enough to allow the offense the opportunity to try to get back into this game.
And that's the end of it, right? Like it falls on the offense today. Only 200 total yards, and there were a lot of tweets going out about how, like, after that first drive, BYU only had 20 or 30 yards of offense before some of the garbage time yards. And I am looking through the YouTube comments right now, and you're right. A lot of people are like, "Oh, they should have benched Bear as soon as he got hurt." I don't get that. You're telling me you would be confident in McKay Hillstead to come in and win when he hasn't played all year? I don't get that. I get we did see McKay Hillstead like twice, right? But you get my point.
Yeah. I understand it from the perspective of wanting to see something different to see if it'll work. Because I mean at that point, right? Bear Bachmeier comes out of the timeout, throws the interception. The next drive, you give the ball away with a fumble. And then there's just more giveaways for the offense down the stretch. And I think in the sense that wanting to see something different, wanting to try something new, to just get something going on offense, so find some sort of spark. In that sense, I get it, but at the same time, Bear is your guy, and again, I think tonight he showed moments of being of showing that he is a true freshman, but he's still your guy. And I think at the end of the day, he puts you in the best position to try to move the ball downfield.
You won 11 games with him,
right?
It'd be different if you're Duke and you somehow make the ACC championship with 7-5 record and you truly have nothing to lose. But like, Bear Bachmeier is a really good player. There's a reason that he was the starting quarterback instead of McKay Hillstead. And I liked Hillstead a lot at Utah State. I really did. And I thought he was going to win the starting quarterback job here at BYU. But it turns out that the fact of the matter is, Alex, BYU has a gem on their hands in Bear Bachmeier. And you don't bench that just because he tweaked his ankle. And I get that I get the offense was held back. But I imagine McKay Hillstead trying to make plays on this Texas Tech defense. I mean, Hillstead, I'm sorry, I don't think he's a Big 12 quarterback. I'd be surprised if he sticks around at BYU, to be honest. I don't see it at all. I don't see a world in which you put McKay Hillstead and he comes back and wins you this game. Yeah. I don't see that ever happening.
Yeah. Again, we are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitter. Send us in your reactions. Give us your thoughts. Get involved in the conversation. This BYU 34-7 loss to Texas Tech. We'll want to welcome in Alex Keary to the stage as he joins us too to help us break down this BYU loss. Keary, the offense, man, same story from down in Lubbock, the inability to move the ball downfield. What was your takes? What was your thoughts on this loss for BYU?
Yeah, worse actually. I mean, just because of how bad the turnovers got. I mean, it got silly at the end, right? It got like way ugly. And then it gets to the awkward moment where everybody's like, anyway, great conversation about the idea of a college football playoff. And, you're not hearing any of those drums getting beaten. And guess what? You have a lot of work to do, and that's fine. I mean, look, you have a clear number one in this conference. And it's not just Texas Tech. It's like, what did we always say the kids say? It's their S tier, and then there's everybody else. You guys are more millennials than I am. So
no, that's right. That's right.
So, I mean, it's like not even close at this point, and obviously that makes it a little bit more stark. But look, they got started out nice. It was weird because it was the inverse of what you typically see from them, which was a slow start, and then the you kind of pick up steam. And anytime there was even a semblance of them picking up steam, or even just a positive yardage play here and there, then there's turnovers, and we talked about the possibility of like some, taking shots and things like that. They just never did it.
Yeah.
They had one ball that threw downfield that was like more than 30 yards in the air, and it was that one to Chase Robertson ended up being a PI, and they got the trick play, reverse pass from Kingston to Carson Ryan, and I'm trying to think. LJ was like on and off, doing okay. Like he looked kind of like his normal self. And then they would stop doing it. And then the play calling would get weird, I think, you think about the first drive of the first half where they go 90 yards. They got done with that drive, and I thought that might be their most impressive drive of the entire season. Like they held on to the ball. They had the clock covered. They had everything figured out, and they go 90 yards in 6.5 minutes or whatever it was. So, and then the first drive of the second half was also one that was semi promising, and then they gave it up, and Farron wasn't putting it through. I'm trying to think of all the stuff. The fake punt was mind-blowingly dumb for that moment. Like, there wasn't a soul on that field. That like that's K-pop superpower, is like lulling the rest of us into sleep, into thinking, oh, when's a good time to be able to pull that play off. I don't know if they put that in Sam Vanderhaar's, like, in his decision-making world, like, where he goes, if you see something, like, you make a call at the line, and sometimes he'll do that, but throwing the ball too, like, having a punter throw is, you only do that if the guy is walking out there by himself in the middle of the field, and everybody got so fooled. You had, like, legitimate first-team guys on defense who are covering a punter throwing the ball and a backup whomever who he was throwing to. And I saw the frustration that K-pop had on the sideline, and I thought, I wonder if he made that call or where that came from, and where they were on the field was, well, number one is where they were on the field is fake punt territory. Number two, they could not afford to give that ball back to Texas Tech. So that was a weird momentum killer that felt like, oh, the coaches made a bad decision here. And anytime that there are those obvious coaching blunders, those are hard moments. And so all of it adding up to the idea of, and how many turnovers did they end up with? 4?
Ooh, yeah,
4.
Yeah.
3
So,
from Bear, and then
and then so they were -7 in these 2 games against Texas Tech. That's not a good ratio for that team. Like, the only way you had a chance was to make it even or have a little bit of a notch up in the turnover category. And so 200 yards of offense, 60 yards running the football, like not even 3.5 yards of play. All these things added up to what you got, which was pretty ugly game, pretty ugly score. And by the end, you knew exactly where BYU probably should be. And that's probably the Alamo Bowl.
On the outside looking in.
A lot of the conversation we're seeing in our post-game chat here, and then on social media just all across, like, a lot of people are thinking that they should have made a quarterback change after Bear Bachmeier suffered the injury. I totally disagree with that. I want to know your thoughts on it.
I mean, he was tender on that thing, right? And there was a moment where the word McKay Hillstead was mentioned, where I was watching the game too, and that was very quickly dismissed by everybody.
Yeah,
because the idea was, I mean, I don't know what you get with McKay, but it was not going to be, the Hammond kid coming in against Utah. It might just be something different for them to look at. But I mean, like, imagine Bear, who's taller than McKay, who had a hard enough time getting it over the friggin' front. I mean, how many batted down balls were there? Batted down balls that got turned into picks. I mean, so Hillstead, I don't think would have. We'll never know because they didn't take him out. But the coaching staff saying, we're going to take a 60% Bear Bachmeier over McKay Hillstead and keep him in the whole game, probably is an indicator as to what the performance gap is between those two. So take that with what it was, which was, and I bet they'll get asked those questions. Were there any thoughts of putting McKay Hillstead in? And I bet the coaches are like, no, we love McKay, but absolutely not. So who knows though? I don't know what the reality is, and maybe Bear's just that much of a competitor. He came out in the second half and he looked a little bit more limber, but he wasn't himself after that injury. So it was what it was, and that guy, but it also didn't make BYU's play calling so much different. But you do wonder what it affected the balls that he was throwing. But I mean, his vision was bad. He was throwing it straight to dudes, and there's a reason that Texas Tech defense is number 2 in the country overall. And they're beyond legit. So tip your hat to those guys. I mean, and BYU was, didn't feel almost very similar to that Utah game, right? Where you had just like kind of hanging around. But you have zero momentum, despite the fact that the score was kind of close. So you're 13-7 at the half. You get the ball back. You kind of march a little bit. You make that field goal, and then it'd be 10-13 at that point. And then it was just like chipping away, and then the wheels fell way off. And I'm pretty sure they scored. Did they score 34 on Utah too? It was like 34-10 or whatever it ended up being, or 37-10. So it felt very similar in terms of like kept it close for a minute, ended up being sort of embarrassing by the end.
Yeah. I think it was massive for BYU's defense to come out and play the way that they did. It wasn't a perfect game by any means, a lot of missed tackles, but the defense did enough to allow the offense the opportunity to try to allow that offense to get back into this one. But I think the thing that missed from BYU's defense, something that we normally see, is the turnovers, man. They weren't as opportunistic as we've seen this defense be in the past. I mean, Satuala had the opportunity. I think Latui batted one down too in the second half, but no turnovers for this BYU defense.
They could have made a big difference. I mean, that if you think about where that ball would have bounced for Falatau on that one pick, and he'd have been headed the other way, probably. I don't know if he would have made it, but I mean, he's as athletic as anybody on the field at that point. But yeah, I mean, just little things. The ball is funny shaped in football. It bounces a weird way. And, you think about too, like Tanner Wall punched that ball out perfect on that reception. And it bounced straight out and right into the hands of another guy, almost like it was a play call. So those are things that like you go, oh, normally those fumbles end up going to BYU. Normally that pick may happen, or, I thought the defensive backfield did a pretty darn good job. You think about like just an insane catch for the first touchdown for Tech. Evan Johnson, I think, was underrated in how well. I think he played really well. I think he played a great game today. I don't know, maybe you guys disagree, but like I thought he was awesome. Bodie Schoonover had a good game. Like that guy seemed like he was around everything. And I mean, it's always one of those awkward moments where you go, great season at 11-2, gut punch for the way that things went today.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we were talking about before you got on, and we mentioned it this morning. Like, don't let not making the college football playoff overshadow what this season means for BYU and for their future. And I know that that's all that people are focused on right now, is that, the playoffs are not going to happen at this point. But that's not what it's about. It's about getting BYU to where they need to be in the Big 12 conference. And then once you start making waves in the conference, then the respect is going to come. It's not going to happen overnight. Kind of saw it happen overnight with Texas Tech, but at the same time, like, you got to build towards something, and you got to get better and better every single year. Last year, BYU wasn't even in the conference championship. This year they were. Now Sataki has even more funding, and you would assume that this team is going to be even better. And Sataki kind of hinted that they're going to attack the portal the same way that Texas Tech did. So now this is kind of the baseline and the expectation. And moving forward, then you can expect the championships and the playoffs. But they were never supposed to be here this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, because they got a little bit better. And people need to understand too, like, the way we talk about the Jazz and the Mammoth and professional sports in general, we're like, rebuild, what year in the rebuild are you, blah, blah, blah. BYU would have had to have gotten themselves into rebuild mode if Kalani would have been gone, because a lot of the staff would have left too. So you don't have to worry about that. And there is kind of no such thing as like a championship window from the traditional standpoint, like we see with these other professional sports. The window can get open. Ask Texas Tech. The window can get open. Like, you can open it now, and you can run straight through that championship window. And so in BYU's case, like, if you're wondering what direction they'd be trending, if you were to make early guesses on where this team could be next year, the answer is pretty likely right back in the same spot at the very least. Texas Tech is going to be right there too. You know what I mean? Like, but you're not going to have Rodriguez. You're not going to have Bailey. Those guys are kind of generational, but they'll get close to getting the same type of talent because they can. So the window can open depending on how well they had the number one portal class. And that is a thing. I would rather have a number one portal class than a number one recruiting class overall, right? Like, just because portal class means there are guys that I don't know if I would ever get a high school kid if I was a college coach. Like, I would live in the world where these guys have already had college reps. Like, that makes a huge difference. And if you've got the money to do it, like, go out and get those guys. So I think that the championship window, so to speak, it hasn't closed by any means. And in fact, it's probably more open than it's ever been because of the developments from this week about the contract and the money stuff coming out for Kalani as well. So I'm confident in saying that these guys are going to go out and spend because they want to make a splash. They don't want to lose any of this momentum that they built up. This is kind of a blow for that, but not much, I don't think, overall, when it really comes down to it.
I think overall, regardless, you're taking steps in the right direction. You're right. The first season, you go 5-7. The next, you follow it up with 11-2 or whatever it was last season, and then now here you are again sitting at 11-2. But you made it to a conference championship game, and so I mean, you're taking steps up the ladder. You're climbing up the stairs or whatever, and you're taking strides in the right direction. But I mean, just looking at this from what's left of the season for BYU is, I guess, how much of a consolation can a bowl win be for these guys?
We talked about that too a little bit today, right? Like, I just don't see this team. I don't see this team being the type that shows up to stuff and going, man, this bowl is dumb. It doesn't matter. Like, that's just not the Kalani way. And I think that it would make a huge difference if they have a decent name that they're playing. I think if they have a big brand like a USC or somebody that they're taking on, they will walk into it the same way they did against Colorado last year, which is, yeah, we did lose 2 games during the season, but, take us lightly at your peril. You know what I mean? And so that's the part to me that I think is kind of fascinating to see how they try to figure that out. And so, yeah, I don't know what the return situation looks like for some of these guys. I'm assuming LJ'd be back, right? But maybe he takes advantage of the fact that he was a offensive conference player of the year, and tries to play his hand into the NFL. So I don't know, but in the end, they'll have the ability to be able to rebuild, I think, pretty quickly, and it starts with the bowl game, and so they'll tell those guys that, like, hey,
yeah,
you're kind of send the seniors off, great, but also, like, this is tryout mode. And there are guys that are going to be playing in that game or not playing in that game that are basically going to hit the bricks because the team won't have room for them anymore. And that's going to be tough decisions every year, but they're going to be versions of that. It might be mostly guys you don't know the names of right now, but how are they going to build off of these guys? They're not losing enough for me to think that they're going to be down for a while.
I think it'd be amazing if LJ came back, right? Run it back. Why not? You're going to be heading into a senior year, and you came this close to your goals. Run it back. Why not?
Yeah, I don't know what his personal plans are, but in this O-line, I'll get some revamping too. But they tend to restock pretty darn well with a lot of the guys, and you're going to see names coming over. You've seen offensive linemen transfer in. You've seen offensive linemen. You look at across the board, you had Jada. Lapuaho was a Utah State guy, right, before he transferred. And so they can be – the transfer situation, I think, at the O-line position is good because there's money to spend at the O-line spot. And so I'm into that. The retooling of your entire offensive line can be done in the portal. And that, frankly, goes for any position, but, interested to see what a lot of these young guys will do too. But, this team is built to do pretty well next year. They'll miss a couple of these seniors for sure, but you already had enough guys who proved themselves this year early and often that I think were a little bit of surprises. A lot of them in that defensive backfield.
And Bear Bachmeier is going to have an entire offseason in Provo, baby.
I'm sure that's where he's going to hang out, just Provo. Yeah, right. He's going to be like Bear Bachmeier at John Beck's School of Quarterbacking in Southern California. That's where all those. That's where it's going to be, man.
But to Christian's point, like that was a big storyline heading into the season, right? A quarterback who didn't go through spring training, transferred in the spring portal, came in into this quarterback battle in fall camp. But I think Christian has a great point, right? He's going to go through an entire offseason. What you anticipate, right, is going to go through an entire offseason with this team and be able to to be able to grow with this team. And I think that could be huge for next season in Bear Bachmeier coming back with BYU.
Yeah, and the other thing is they're going to dip into the portal in a lot of different places that you're not necessarily thinking that they would have needed to, but they will. I mean, they're going to go. If you're smart, if you're a coach, competition breeds that the reality of how good you end up getting. And if they can get some competition at even some spaces that look quote unquote like wrapped up for guys, I would imagine Glasgow might take a look at what the NFL could look like. I would imagine that obviously losing Jack Kelly would be a hard replacement to have. Siali Osera has been a pretty good revelation this year, but you got a lot of young guys coming in, and so hit the transfer portal hard and make all these guys compete with people. I mean, for not just for positions, but for money. Like, they're doing that, man, and so it's all sorts of fun and awkward all at the same time. So added wrinkle for the weirdness of how to build these rosters.
Alex Geary joining us here on the Cougar Postgame Show. You can catch him weekdays from 3 to 7 on JJ and Alex, and I'm sure you and JJ will have plenty to break down on Monday. You can catch him there on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Geary, man, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
See you guys. Have a good Saturday. Good to talk to you.
Thanks, Gary.
There you go, Alex Geary here on the Cougar Postgame Show. And so with that, we'll take a quick step aside. We'll come back. We'll continue to break down what was this Texas Tech and BYU, this Texas Tech BYU game, the 34-7 loss for the BYU Cougars. That's coming up on the other side here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
listening to the Cougar Postgame Show on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And want to welcome you back into the Cougar Postgame Show here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Alex Napoles. That's Christian Esparza. As we continue to break down this Texas Tech win over BYU. Texas Tech, the Big 12 champions for the first time ever since joining the Big 12 Conference. Again, massive credit to them. That defense is no joke, man.
Yeah, and this is it's funny. I mean, Cody Campbell, the notorious big-time booster for Texas Tech, joined the KSL Sports Zone earlier in the season. He was on with DJ and PK and basically talking about why he was giving so much money, right? And he kind of wanted to prove a point, as in, I almost took it as like he wanted to prove how unfair it was. And then we heard Brian Santiago on with DJ and PK on Friday talking about the Kalani Sitake extension and how the NIL stuff is like the wild, wild west right now. And there needs to be regulation. So you basically got the two highest spenders in the Big 12 talking about how this stuff needs to be regulated. And I thought that was interesting, that these guys are spending so much, they're meeting each other in the conference championship game, yet they're saying, hey, there needs to be guardrails on this.
Yeah.
But it's clear, like right now, to win in college football, you need money. And BYU has shown that they're committed to that based off the extension they gave Kalani Sitake and expected 10 to 15 million additional dollars, right, added on top of the 20 million that you're going to get in revenue sharing. As Kerry, I think Kerry made some great points there. BYU is going to attack the transfer portal. And it's funny because it did not work out with Keaton Slovis. But even then, that was 2 years ago, and it's so much different now. I mean, teams have a better idea of how to attack the transfer portal, as we saw with Texas Tech. And I think that BYU is going to be very methodical with who they bring in and what positions, but you know that those players, whoever they bring in, is going to make an impact.
Yeah. And one of the things too about Texas Tech is like they haven't shied away from letting people know that they're pumping in resources into their NIL and that they're bringing in the top defensive players and making a very stacked, very deep defense. They haven't shied away from any of that. And I mean, it seemed like there for a while, BYU was not necessarily, boasting about it, but was definitely shying away from the topic too. But now with the extension and with the conversation Kalani had, right, in wanting to fortify this team with NIL and the resources to be competitive, I think we'll continue to see a shift of BYU hitting the transfer portal hard and making sure that this team is filled with those key pieces and with those elite players to make this team and keep this team competitive in the Big 12.
Sorry, there's sirens outside. Hopefully those aren't going across. I live right down the road from the fire station, so you never know. But they're not for me. I'm good. No, I definitely think some areas that BYU needs to upgrade, right? You can look at the offensive line. I think that they had players play well, right? Their center made all conference first team. But that's simply not enough. I mean, you got to have, when you're going to be playing dogs like David Bailey, and I know David Bailey's not coming back, right? That's just an example. When you're going to be playing some of the best defensive linemen in the country, you need some of the best offensive linemen in the country. And so, that's how you win football games, is dominating the trenches. And so I would like to see BYU attack both the offensive and defensive line in the portal. Definitely running back depth, whether or not LJ Martin comes back. Even if he does return, they need backups. If he does leave, then you got a massive hole that needs to be filled. So trenches, running back. I think their defensive backfield is set. I really like what they've got there with Satsuala. And then not sure what the other corners look like, but that was a big revelation this year. I think their defensive backfield was good.
Yeah.
And probably some other weapons besides Parker Kingston, right? You're going to need some weapons, some toys for Bear Bachmeier to throw to. Absolutely.
I think losing Chase Roberts is going to be a massive, massive loss. Losing Carson Ryan, I think, is going to be a massive loss. And so I think Carson Ryan kind of took us by surprise and kind of took us by storm. Right, we knew his skill set, we knew he could be good, but the connection he and Bear Bachmeier had early in the season, had earlier in the season was super fun to watch. And so, fortifying yourself at the wide receiver spot, I think would be massive for BYU to be able to go out and pick up some guys, and then of course, building up that offensive line and building up that defensive line. Texas Tech has probably the best defensive line in all of college football, and it's a massive reason as to why not only they're the best team at stopping the run, but a big reason as to why they're finding so much success on defense.
Yeah, and again, like, of course, that's what Utah has been so good at for years, right? Is dominating the trenches, and that's how they have got their success. And of course, it is a different world, and not to bring, I mean, I'm sorry for bringing up Utah in the BYU postgame, but it's a tried and true fact that to be a good football team, you have to win in the trenches. And like we saw today, when you can't take shots down the field if your quarterback doesn't have time to throw the ball. And of course, there were things that went into it with Bear Bachmeier getting hurt. And I realized that wasn't on a sack. That was on a QB run. I'm not saying he got hurt because the line wasn't good enough, but having a good offensive line makes everything easy on offense, or easier. So that's where I would expect BYU to fortify things. Even if you think that they are set at a position, you never know who's going to be available. You never know who's going to want to transfer. So I think that could be fun to see what that looks like in, what is it, mid-January when the portal opens up now. Yeah. So we'll see, man. It could get pretty fun.
Yeah.
BYU fans might want to put together like a Santa wish list or something.
And it also wouldn't help it certainly wouldn't hurt, right? If you can bring in somebody at a position that you think is already fortified for next season, but bring in somebody who's probably just as great, and iron sharpen iron, right? And you can be even better for what's to come next season for BYU. Real quick, want to remind you, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter. Send in your reactions to this game, send in your takes, your thoughts, and get involved in the conversation on this BYU loss to Texas Tech, 34-7, the final score. Mitch Harper putting in the hard work, and he put this out on social media earlier today. And of the 200 yards that BYU gained, this is a breakdown of how many yards the offense got per drive. So you get 90, obviously, on the first one. The next one goes for -2, then 17, then 0, then 4. And that is your first half drives. In the second half, you're able to move the ball down 47 yards, but you miss the field goal. Then you go 6, then you go 4, then you go 10, then you go 0, 6, 12, and 11. Just not great. Not great enough, not good enough in any semblance of you can't have that type of performance in the Big 12 championship, Christian.
No, and again, to bring it back to this game and talk about why BYU lost today, they just same story as the first game, man. They were not able to move the ball on offense, and the defense did some great things, and ultimately they ended up giving up some points that make this look like a blowout, and frankly it was. But it's not a typical, the defense allowed 34 points today. Like, it was, the defense allowed 34 points because the offense was so bad. I mean, Tech obviously forced 4 turnovers, and then when they weren't forcing turnovers, they had a short field to deal with, right? So
yeah, that
makes it hard. And not only was BYU not able to score more than 7 points, but to your point, they weren't able to even move the ball, and that makes it tough, man. That makes it tough. You're not going to win football games with yardage numbers like that. And of course, there's again a lot that had to do with it, right? Bear Bachmeier getting injured early severely hampered this offense. But at the end of the day, I don't think it matters who was back at quarterback. This game would not have gone any better with a different quarterback. I don't want to put the loss all on Bear because he doesn't deserve that. And frankly, I think he did some really good things early on. But yeah, it just sometimes you run into a buzzsaw, man. And this is what Texas Tech has built, and they have built. Earlier this year, I said I didn't think Texas Tech could compete for the national title, but over the last month or so, I've definitely changed my mind on that. And especially after watching this game, this is a team that really, this is a defense that is good enough to shut down the best offenses in the country. And frankly, BYU is not even near that, right? And Tech just dominated today.
I think one of my takeaways from this game, from the Texas Tech perspective, man, is I think I'm excited to see what that defense can do against a team like Oregon, a team like Ohio State, right? I think that if they ride that defense, if Texas Tech continues to ride that defense the way that they do, I think they have a pretty good shot of making a run in the college football playoff. Obviously, they'll more than likely get the first round bye. We'll see where the committee and what the committee decides to do, especially with the SEC championship still to be played and the ACC championship still to be played. But we'll see where they end up. I'm sure that they'll have the first round bye. They'll end up in one of those fun bowl games, and we'll see how far they can make it. I think Texas Tech has a chance here to represent the Big 12 in a big way.
And it's funny now, BYU fans kind of turn into Texas Tech, not Texas Tech fans, but right, you want to cheer for Texas Tech because what they do in the college football playoff is beneficial for your conference. And
I think ultimately too, it's going to come back and reflect on you, right?
Right. The rising
losses
tide raises all ships.
Right.
And for BYU or Utah or any other Big 12 program to earn that national respect down the road, they need a team this year to rise up in the playoffs and if not win the thing, then at least win a game or two and prove that the Big 12 can hang with the SEC and the Big 10. So that's what I'm excited to see is this Texas Tech team really the third or fourth best team in the country, and how do they perform against the other top dogs?
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, man. And we'll see what Texas Tech is able to do as the playoff right around the corner. We'll see how the other games end up, and we'll see what the committee decides to do tomorrow for as far as where they land and who else makes it to the to the college football playoff. We'll take a quick step aside. We have Kalani Sound ready to roll, and we'll bring that to you on the other side of this break. We are on radio as well as streaming, and so we do have to take a little bit of a break to fit in those radio breaks. But we do have Kalani Sound ready to roll, and that's coming to you on the other side here on the Cougar Postgame Show on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
listening to the Cougar Postgame Show on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And I want to welcome you back into the Cougar Postgame Show here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Napoles alongside Christian Esparza as we continue to break down the Texas Tech win over the BYU Cougars, 34-7, the final score in this one, Christian. Again, I just want to one more time hammer the point that I think people, BYU fans specifically, I know it's going to sting, and this loss is probably not the way that you wanted the season to end, but I still think that there is a lot to be proud of as far as this BYU team goes. There's a lot to look forward to as far as this BYU team goes and the future of this program.
Yeah, man. It was a great season for BYU. I've had a ton of fun doing these post-game shows every single week with you. It's been great, and this team far exceeded expectations when you look at what happened over the spring and across the course of the summer, and a true freshman winning the starting quarterback job at the end of August. And it's like, okay, yeah, maybe BYU gets bowl eligible, right? And they were undefeated for a really long time. They end up with, 11 regular season wins, and they're going to get a shot at a 12th win in a bowl game. And it stings because of the national disrespect and how much people outside of Utah want to leave BYU out of the playoff. But that's not what it's about. Even with a 16-team playoff field, there's only 16 teams in the country that get to do that. And while I think BYU should have the opportunity, and I'm sure you agree, and some people nationally agree, the fact that they don't get into the playoff should not overshadow or make you forget what they accomplished this year, because Kalani Sitake and this BYU team accomplished so many great things, and it's a step in the right direction. It's not where they want to be. It's not where they're going to be, right? They're going to continue climbing higher and higher as far as becoming a true blue blood. But, it's a step in the right direction, and it was truly a great season.
Yeah. And again, not to bring up Utah on the Cougar postgame show, but it took Utah 2 losses in the Pac-12 championship before they made it to go on to win. And it took them 4 appearances to receive some of that respect that you see national people give Utah. And so give it a little time, BYU fans. It's coming for you.
And you know what? Kalani returning is even better for that, right?
Absolutely.
Because it'd be one thing if Kalani just left after this loss, and you're talking about, okay, what happens next for BYU? But no, now you know that he's coming back. And,
yeah.
I know that Kerry was on here just talking with us a little bit ago, talking about how you can't really do rebuilds in college football, but there is something to be said about an established culture and an established leader like Kalani Sitake coming back.
Absolutely. And I think right now at this point, we'll still have to see what happens in the transfer portal. We'll still have to see what happens, down the road for BYU as far as recruiting guys out of the portal goes. But as things stand right now, I think the biggest thing you have coming back for you next season is Kalani Sitake, hands down. More important than even any player returning for next season. It is the fact that your head coach, your leader, is coming back. And speaking of that head coach and that leader, we do have Kalani Sitake at the podium after the loss. And so we'll send it over to Arlington. We'll listen to Kalani Sitake and his words after BYU falls to Texas Tech.
Yeah, congratulations to Texas Tech and the coaches, the players, and the fans. Well-deserved Big 12 championship. I think can't make a lot of mistakes like we did. We've learned it again. It's the second time this year against the best team in the country. I've said it before. I think they're the best team in the country, and I'm confirming it. They're the best team in the country. Joey's done an amazing job with this team. It just so happens that we had to play the best team in the country twice, and they created a lot of havoc, and we fought as much as we can. But towards the end, you can't make the mistakes that we did and expect to come away with a victory or even have a competitive at the end. So credit to them. Really proud of our guys, the effort. Thank you to the fans. BYU fans showed up, and really it was a record attendance, so I want to just tell the BYU fans, just get ready, hopefully we'll be back soon, but we're in our third year in the conference. Really proud of where we've been and how we built this team. We obviously have some more work to do, but I think playing the best team in the country twice will give us some good lessons to learn, and just really proud of the way they played. And I thought looking at everything, all three phases, just fundamentally really sound, well-coached team, an amazing environment today in the stadium. Thank you to all the Texas Tech fans and the BYU fans for bringing the energy. It was a lot of fun. We just needed to make it a little bit more competitive at the end, but it got away from us. But I'm really proud of the way our guys played, and they didn't give up. They just, we put our defense in some tough position. Those guys kept battling, and so we'll build from this and get better. But really, really proud of our team. But with that said and done, I have to watch the film and everything, but it was an honor for us to be on this field and to be part of the Big 12 championship game. And we could get used to this, so I'm hoping that we can be back again soon, and looking forward to building. We have quite a bit of young guys on our team, and so the unfortunate part is that this is our seniors' last time, so they won't be able to play for another Big 12 championship, but they've done some wonderful things in getting our team ready for it. They're still leading. We still need to get better and still find ways to. So we will play again in the postseason, where we'll just find out. But congratulations again. I'll finish by saying my statement. Congratulations to Texas Tech. Just confirm they are the best team in the country. So what questions do you guys have for me?
All right, front row, please. Front row, middle. Hey, Coach, considering that both of your losses came at the hands of the same team this year, and a top 4 ranked team at that, do you think that the playoff committee can take that into consideration compared to other 2-loss teams?
Well, I think if you look at what Texas Tech's done, they're the best team in the country for a reason. Their only loss came when they didn't have their starting quarterback, and so that's difficult and on the road. But you look at when they're full strength team, they're dangerous. So I'm not on the playoff committee, but I can tell you one thing: who's played the best team in the country twice? We have. And does that mean that you're not one of the best 12? I have no idea. I'm not in that committee. I don't make the decisions, but others will find out. That's the great thing about the playoffs. Everybody else will find out what we had to go against, and I'm just really proud of our team. So I can't really speak for everybody else, but from seeing them twice, and even the way that the games went, and watching them and their response to some adversity, I mean, they played really strong, and so I'd love to have a third chance at them, but that's a really good team, and Joey's done a great job with them.
Kalani, how injured was Bear Bachmer after that big hit he took in the first drive, and how much of an impact did that play into not taking many shots down the field and through the air?
Yeah, I mean, he was banged up, and so when you have a lower leg injury, that causes issues for you to throw the ball, but that's not the excuse. I mean, I think it was it Ben that made a one-handed snag? Like, come on, man! They made some amazing plays. Great defense, and offense was efficient. And so, I thought overall they just had a great game plan, and they just executed. They never panicked. Just really impressed with the poise, the composure that they had. And like I said, I mean, when they're full strength and their quarterback is full strength, that they're a dangerous team.
There you go, Kalani Sitake at the podium following the BYU loss to Texas Tech. Christian, your biggest takeaways from Kalani?
I think the biggest thing is he mentioned multiple times that Tech is the best team in the country, right? And it is an unfortunate situation that BYU finds himself in. Whether or not you think Texas Tech is the best team in the country, it is a fact that they are ranked number 4 right now. And that is the only team that BYU has lost to. Lost to them once in the regular season and then once in the conference championship. And we can have a conversation later in the show about whether or not that should impact your postseason odds, right? Losing your conference championship game. But Texas Tech is a really good team. And I think Kalani Sitake realizes that. And it really just, in his comments, it's like, he's willing to admit that they are the better team and they got the win. And I did like that he was like, yeah, I wish we got a third crack at him. To be honest, I don't know if the third game would go all that differently, man. But Satake recognizes that Texas Tech is for real.
Yeah. I will agree with your sentiment on the third game. I don't know if it would go any different. Once it could be a fluke. It could be, it could be just a bad day for BYU, but to have a almost similar performance, twice against the same team, then that's no coincidence anymore at that point, right? That's a dang good Texas Tech team. Real quick, we do want to send it back to Arlington and hear some more sound. This one comes from Chase Roberts, wide receiver for BYU, and safety Falatal Satuala, both addressing the media after this loss for the BYU Cougars.
Chase, with all the stuff that took place this week, did that have any distractions, have any impact on this team heading into this game, the readiness?
No, I think we were excited. Obviously, Kalani coming back, and there was some stuff at the beginning of the week not knowing. But ultimately, we're football players, and we want to go play football this weekend and win a Big 12 championship, whatever happened, So I think we were able to lock in, and we're just excited for what we're building here at BYU. We'll be back in the Big 12 championship in the upcoming seasons. So I feel like, obviously, it hurts, and you look back at all the different things that could have caused something like this, but they're a good team. They made plays, they had some turnovers, and we didn't execute the way we needed to. So ultimately it comes down to that, and still love my brothers. We're not going to point fingers or anything. We're going to go out and smile and be a good son, be a good brother, and be a BYU football player. So.
Chase, you and Kalani both said that you're going to be back in the near future in the Big 12 title, but being around this program for 4 years now, where do you think BYU needs to kind of grow the most as a program to eventually beat a team like Texas Tech, and where are your some initial thoughts there?
Yeah, we're building this program, right? You've seen it in the past, like what's been happening over time as we joined the Big 12. We're top 20 in recruiting, right? This year, and that's going to help a lot. You need some talent on the team, obviously, and so when you go execute, you have a coach like Kalani, you have coaching staff like that we have now, and you get those recruits, and you get these young guys building and growing. You got a freshman quarterback that just went 11-2. Like all BYU fans should be freaking hyped about the next coming seasons and coming back and beating a team like Texas Tech. That's a great team, and they were able to put together a good squad with all the resources and everything that they have. And I think now that we've been able to step up and have those resources, now we're going to be right up there with them.
Chase, you were nursing a hamstring injury the past couple of weeks. How close to 100% were you today, and do you feel like it affected your play at all?
I mean, I feel like everyone at this point in the season is battling something, so I'm not going to, complain and say that, yeah, I was battling a hamstring injury. Barrett was playing with one leg, you know what I mean? Everyone just got to go do their part, do their thing, and I felt good enough to play, so I was going to go play and do my best, and that's everyone on the whole team. It's both sides, you know what I mean? So it's part of the game, it's part of football, especially at the end of the season.
So Falatal, it looked like you had a chance at an interception early on in this game. How much do you rue opportunities like that when you look at the outcome of a game like this?
Obviously, you could tell that we should have made more plays, on defense. When it comes to big games like this, it really comes down to the team who makes those big plays and takes advantage of those opportunities. So defensively, I feel like we had a lot of times where we could make plays like that, get interceptions, sacks, even that fumble. I want to say lucky bounce, but at the same time, like run to the ball and get on that thing. So overall, they just made more big plays than us that game.
There you go. Chase Roberts and Falatal Satuala at the podium down there in Arlington. Due to broadcasting rules, we're only allowed to play short amounts of those. So if you do want to hear the full Kalani Sitake press conference and, of course, the full Roberts and Falatal Satuala press conference, you can catch those on Brigham Young University Sound on our podcast feeds, and you can catch the full versions of those there. Christian, before we wrap things up, man, I believe you have a tweet something from RG3 that you want to share before we wrap this one up, man?
Yeah, RG3 still advocating for BYU to make the college football playoff. He tweeted, BYU lost twice to the number 4 team in the country. Texas Tech is a great team. BYU should still be in the college football playoff at 11-2 with the 2 best losses of any team in the country. 11-win teams shouldn't be punished for the result of the conference championship game, period. I think we're all aware that BYU is going to get left out, right? I think it would be a minor miracle if somehow BYU still makes the college football playoff, but I'm going to side with our guy RG3 here. And I wish that this would have been more of a talking point from more national media members. We just did not see it very much throughout the week. I mean, we want to give a shout out to guys like Shehan Jayaraja. He joins the station every week. He's done a great job advocating for BYU. There have been a couple. Of course, Dave Portnoy has been a big one. Whether or not that's authentic, it's still big that you've got a big voice in BYU's corner, and then now RG3. But I agree. If you win 11 regular season games and you're a Power 4 team, you should not be left out. And
yeah,
I think it's very unfair for BYU's legitimacy to hinge on the conference championship game. That doesn't make any sense at all. There was a media member, I'm spacing his name, but he was like, oh, BYU wants to make the playoffs. They're in the playoffs. It just starts this week. And that's a horrible point because nobody else's playoff starts this week. Notre Dame doesn't have to play in a conference championship game. Miami didn't get to play in a conference championship game. Yet it's BYU that's going to be punished for the loss today. And that should not affect their playoff legitimacy at all.
Yeah. I think first of all, to break this down, I think from my perspective, first you go back to the conversation that a lot of people had last season with SMU. And what happens after SMU lost the conference championship to a weaker on record Clemson, right?
Yeah.
What the conversation was, are you going to punish SMU for losing in a conference championship game? And ultimately SMU didn't. And so I don't want to, I think if you set the precedence, right, if you continue, if you ding teams for losing in a conference championship game, it sends a bad message, right? You're devaluing everything that the conference championship game is. It's already devalued enough, right? No one cares about Ohio State, Indiana today because they're both in no matter what. No one cares about that game besides maybe the guys playing in it. What happens if Alabama loses, right? Right now, Alabama's over Notre Dame. They're over Miami. They're over BYU. What happens what happens if Alabama loses that game, right? Are they going to get punished and be left out of the conference championship game? So one, I don't want college football to devalue what should be a massive achievement in making it to the conference championship game. On the other hand, though, looking at it from the BYU perspective, I'm kind of stuck in, I think you should, I think that there should be something given to good losses, right? You lost to the number 4 team in the country twice. Those are your only 2 losses on the season. Those are, those are what people are going to consider good losses. But, what's to say if BYU makes it into the college football playoff and they take on, in Ohio State, and you're looking at the same type of result where the offense struggles to move the ball down the field, and your defense allows the game to get out of hand, and you're turning the ball over like crazy, right? What's to say that that's not going to be a different result?
Yeah, ultimately that's,
and I think that's what the conference, or excuse me, I think that's what the committee. That's how the committee is going to look at this when it comes to tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's tough because you can only play the games that are on your schedule. And I get teams are in control of scheduling their own games to an extent. But even then, like, you don't know who's going to be good in 3 to 4 years. You can kind of have an idea, but, you don't want to schedule this gauntlet of games because you don't want to risk losses piling up. You want your record to look good at the end of the year. But at the same time, I think ultimately that is what's hurting BYU is they don't have enough big wins. And I get Utah is a ranked team. That's a big win. I get Arizona finished the season ranked. That is a big win. But being in the Big 12 right now, they don't have the opportunity to schedule some of these big time opponents that are going to look good when it comes to the playoff committee searching for things. So right now, I mean, if you're BYU, the playoffs are out of reach this season. All you can hope for is Texas Tech to make waves in the college football playoff and establish legitimacy for the Big 12 as a conference. I think that would go a long ways. And then obviously, next year you kind of have that on your back saying, yeah, we kind of got the shaft and we want to come back and show teams we deserve to be a playoff team. So that's really all you can do. And it sucks. It's unfortunate that that's how things are, but that is how things are. And
yeah,
it's out of BYU's hands. They knew that their destiny was in their own hands today with a win, and they weren't able to get it done. So that's how it goes, man. But again, really good season, and you don't want to focus on missing the playoffs. Like, you don't want that to be your takeaway from this year.
Yeah. Christian, man, we're about to wrap up, but is there anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to say? You want to throw out there before we get on out of here, man?
Not really. Just want to reiterate. I'm really curious to see how BYU attacks the portal. Like, an additional $10 to $15 million is going to be huge. And again, that's all rumored, reported. We'll see how it gets put to use. But like, we saw BYU basketball land some really, really big fish in recruiting and in the transfer portal. Of course, Ryder Lyons just signed with BYU earlier in the week. So that's big. And he's not going to be coming in next year, but later down the line. But we know BYU has the resources now. So I'm curious to see what that looks like again in mid-March, and then we'll see what bowl game BYU's playing. Sounds like it's going to be the Alamo Bowl on January 30th, so that could be fun. The season's not quite over yet. We do have some postseason action, even though it's not the college football playoff.
Yeah. First and foremost, thank you to everybody for tuning in today. Thank you to everybody for tuning in throughout the course of the entire season for the Cougar Postgame shows. Me and Christian want to send you our biggest thank yous. It's been super fun doing this. It's been amazing being able to sit here with Christian and break all this down. Want to give a big thank you to Sean Croshaw, Parker Long, Alma Bean for producing for us, getting us sound, helping us with sound all season long. And then, of course, Jake Hatch for jumping on, Alex Curie for jumping on, and Mitch Harper for sending us sound throughout the course of the season, and everybody who helped make these broadcasts and make the Cougar Postgame show possible. So from the bottom of our hearts, we want to thank everybody for tuning in and supporting and being there every step of the way for this BYU season. I'm sure we'll be back for whatever bowl game BYU ends up, but from myself, Alex Napoles, that's Christian Esparza. We want to thank you for tuning in to the Cougar Postgame show here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.